My name is Lauren Matthews, and I'm 34 years old. 6 days ago I signed divorce papers that left my husband of 8 years with nothing. No house, no savings, no car, and a restraining order that keeps him 500 feet away from me at all times. He's currently living in a motel room, working at a job that pays barely minimum wage, and facing criminal charges for domestic abuse and financial coercion. 3 weeks ago, he thought he was teaching me a lesson when he left me stranded 37 miles from home, on a highway with no phone, no money, and no way to get back. He drove away laughing, convinced he'd finally broken me into submission. What he didn't know was that I'd been planning my escape for 2 years. What he didn't know was that my grandmother had left me $400,000 in a trust fund he had no access to. What he didn't know was that I'd secretly finished my law degree online and passed the bar exam 3 months earlier. And what he definitely didn't know was that the moment he abandoned me on that highway, he gave me the final piece of evidence I needed to destroy him completely. Before I tell you how one act of cruelty became his downfall, please like and subscribe if you enjoy these stories. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Now let me tell you how 37 miles became the distance between his control and my freedom. I met Jake Matthews when I was 24 years old. He was 28, charming, successful in commercial real estate, drove a BMW 5 Series, and wore expensive suits that made him look like he had his life together. We met at a networking event I'd attended with a friend. I was working as a paralegal, making $38,000 a year, living in a studio apartment, trying to figure out my career path. "You're too smart to be a paralegal," he said within an hour of meeting me, his hand on my lower back as we stood by the bar. "You should be a lawyer. You have the mind for it. The presence." I was flattered. This successful, attractive man saw potential in me. We dated for 6 months. He was attentive, generous, took me to expensive restaurants I could never afford. He paid for everything, insisted on it. "I make good money," he'd say when I tried to split checks. "Let me take care of you. That's what a man does." Red flags I see now in hindsight were invisible then. The way he'd choose my outfits for dates, saying he knew what looked best. The way he'd check my phone, claiming he was just interested in my life. The way he'd question where I'd been if I was 10 minutes late, saying he worried about my safety. I interpreted all of it as love, as care, as him being protective. 6 months in, he proposed. Expensive ring, romantic restaurant, the whole production. "Marry me," he said. "Let me take care of you forever. You won't have to work if you don't want to. I'll provide everything. You'll be my wife, my partner, my responsibility." I said yes. We got married 3 months later in a wedding he planned and paid for, 200 guests at a venue that cost $40,000. My friends and family attended, happy I'd found someone successful and devoted. We moved into a house he'd bought, 4 bedrooms in a nice suburb. $1,000 with his name alone on the deed. "My credit is better," he explained when I asked why I wasn't on the mortgage. "It's easier this way. But it's our house, Lauren, ours." The control started immediately after the wedding. Subtle at first. "You don't need to work anymore," he said a month after we married. "I make $180,000 a year. We're comfortable. Stay home, take care of the house, relax. Enjoy being taken care of." I'd kept my paralegal job initially, but he made it difficult. He'd call constantly during my workday, claiming he needed something. He'd get angry if I worked late, saying I was prioritizing strangers over my husband. He'd complain about the house being messy because I wasn't home to clean. "What's the point of being married if you're never here?" he'd ask, his voice taking on that edge I learned to fear. After 6 months of mounting pressure, I quit. "This is better," he said when I told him. "Now you can focus on us, on our home, on being a good wife." Within a year, I was completely financially dependent on him. I had no income. My bank account had $800 in it for my final paycheck. Jake controlled everything. He gave me a credit card, his credit card, with a $500 monthly limit. "That's for groceries, household items, personal stuff," he explained. "If you need more, ask me. I'll assess if it's necessary." "Assess?" I asked. "I manage our finances," he said. "I know what we can afford. Trust me to take care of us." But it wasn't about affording things. It was about control. Every purchase I made, he scrutinized. "Why did you spend $30 at Target?" he'd ask, reviewing the credit card statement like an audit. "What did you buy that cost so much? Shampoo, laundry detergent, kitchen sponges," I'd list. Could have gotten generic brands, he'd say. You're wasting money. Be more conscious. I couldn't buy clothes without his approval. Couldn't get my hair done without explaining why I needed it. Couldn't grab coffee with friends without him asking if it was really necessary to spend money on overpriced drinks. Meanwhile, he spent freely. New suits, golf club memberships, dinners out with his colleagues, a new BMW every 2 years. I earned the money, he'd say when I questioned the inequality. I've earned the right to enjoy it. You haven't contributed financially, so you don't get the same privileges. Fair is fair. The emotional abuse escalated alongside the financial control. He criticized everything. My cooking wasn't good enough. The house wasn't clean enough. I wasn't dressed well enough, wasn't thin enough, wasn't interesting enough. You're getting lazy, he'd say, looking at me with disgust. You've gained weight. You're letting yourself go. Is this what I married? I was 130 pounds on a 5'6" frame. I wasn't overweight. But he convinced me I was. He convinced me I was failing at everything. That I was lucky he tolerated me. That no one else would want me. 3 years into the marriage, I was isolated, broke, and convinced I was worthless. My friends had drifted away after I'd canceled plans so many times because Jake didn't approve. My family lived 3 states away, and Jake discouraged visits. Phone calls are fine, he'd say. But we can't afford plane tickets for you to visit them constantly. He could afford his golf trips to Arizona. But I couldn't afford to visit my parents. When I was 29, my grandmother died. She was my mother's mother, a wonderful woman who'd always encouraged me to pursue law school. You'd be brilliant, Lauren, she'd say. You have the mind for justice. In her will, she left me $400,000. A trust fund, managed by her estate attorney, with specific instructions that only I could access it. My mother called to tell me. Grandma left you money, sweetheart, she said. Quite a bit. It's in a trust. You'll need to contact the attorney to set up access. I met with the attorney without telling Jake. The trust was ironclad. Only my name on it. Only I could withdraw funds. Your grandmother was very specific, the attorney explained. She wanted you to have financial security, independent of anyone else. She mentioned being concerned about your marriage. Said your husband seemed controlling during the few times she met him. She was right, I admitted quietly. Then this money is your safety net, he said. Keep it secret if you need to. Use it when you're ready. I opened a separate bank account at a different bank. Transferred $50,000 initially to that account. Kept the remaining $350,000 in the trust, growing with conservative investments. I told Jake nothing. For the first time in 3 years, I had money he didn't control. And it changed everything. I started making a plan. I researched divorce lawyers quietly at the library. I learned about financial abuse, emotional abuse, coercive control. I realized I was in a textbook abusive marriage and I needed to escape. But I needed more than money. I needed credentials, skills, independence. I remembered my grandmother's words about law school. I enrolled in an online law degree program, paying the tuition for my secret account. For 2 years, I studied while Jake was at work or traveling. I did my coursework in libraries, at coffee shops, anywhere he wouldn't see. Where are you going? He'd ask when I left the house. Library, I'd say. I'm reading more, trying to be more interesting like you said. He liked that answer. Liked that I was trying to improve myself. He had no idea. I was studying for a law degree. I finished my JD in 2 years, accelerated program, straight A's. I took the bar exam secretly, studying for it in the same hidden way. 3 months ago I passed. I was a licensed attorney and my husband had no idea. I started quietly gathering evidence. I documented every purchase he restricted, every insult he threw at me, every time he controlled where I went, who I saw, what I spent. I recorded conversations on my phone when he berated me. I photographed the credit card statements showing his spending versus my allowance. I built a case file that any divorce attorney would salivate over. I consulted with 3 top divorce lawyers in the city, using my secret account to pay for consultations. All 3 told me the same thing. With this evidence, you'll get a favorable divorce settlement. But we need one more thing. We need documentation of him putting you in danger. Physical abuse, abandonment, something that rises to criminal level. That would guarantee you not just a divorce, but potentially criminal charges that would give you maximum leverage. I didn't think Jake would get physical. He'd never hit me. But he'd threatened abandonment before. Twice when I disrespected him, he'd threatened to drop me off somewhere and make me walk home to learn my lesson. He never followed through. Until 3 weeks ago. It was a Saturday morning. Jake had a golf game scheduled with colleagues, an important networking opportunity. I was supposed to make him breakfast, have his golf clothes laid out, be the supportive wife. But I'd been up late the night before studying for a legal consultation I had scheduled, and I'd slept through my alarm. He woke me up at 7:30, furious. "Where's my breakfast?" he demanded, shaking me awake. "I have to leave in 30 minutes. Where are my golf clothes?" "I'm sorry," I said, scrambling out of bed. "I'll make breakfast now. Your clothes are in the closet." "In the closet?" His voice was icy. "Not laid out? Not ready? Do you understand how important this game is? These are potential clients, Lauren. Multi-million-dollar clients. And you can't be bothered to do the one job you have." "I'll get everything ready," I said, rushing to the kitchen. I made eggs and toast as fast as I could while he showered. But the eggs were slightly runny and the toast was a bit dark. He took one bite and threw the plate across the kitchen. "You can't even cook eggs properly," he shouted. "What do you do all day? You don't work. You don't contribute. You can't even manage simple tasks. You're useless." "Jake, please," I said. "I'm sorry. Let me make more." "There's no time," he said, looking at his Rolex, the one that cost $12,000. "Probably on purpose. You resent my success, so you try to undermine me." "That's not true," I protested. "Don't argue with me," he said, his voice dangerous now. "Get dressed. You're coming with me." "To your golf game?" I asked, confused. "No," he said. "I'm taking you for a drive, going to teach you a lesson about gratitude and respect. Get in the car, now. Now." I got dressed, my heart pounding. This felt different. More dangerous. We got in his BMW and he started driving. Out of our suburb onto the highway, heading away from the city. "Where are we going?" I asked after 20 minutes. "Shut up," he said. We drove for over an hour. The landscape changed from suburban to rural to almost empty. Finally, he pulled off onto a rest stop on a nearly deserted stretch of highway. "Get out," he said. "What?" I asked. "Get out of the car," he repeated. "You're going to walk home and think about your attitude. Think about how you sabotaged my morning. Think about how ungrateful you are for everything I provide. Maybe walking home will teach you to appreciate me." "Jake, we're at least 30 miles from home," I said, panic rising. 37 miles exactly," he said, looking at his GPS. "Perfect distance. Far enough to teach a lesson, not so far you won't make it. Get out. Now." "I don't have my phone," I said. "You took it when we got in the car." "Because you don't deserve a phone," he said. "You don't deserve easy communication. You deserve to walk and think about what a disappointment you've been. Get out or I'll drag you out." I got out of the car, standing in the rest stop parking lot. It was August, already 90 degrees at 9 in the morning. I had no phone, no money, no water, nothing but the clothes I was wearing. "Please," I begged. "This isn't safe. It's too far. I can't walk 37 miles. You should have thought of that before disrespecting me," he said. Then he drove away, tires screeching, leaving me alone in a rest stop 37 miles from home. If you've ever been in a relationship where someone controlled every aspect of your life, if you've ever felt trapped with no way out, leave a comment below. Subscribe if you want to hear how the worst moment of my marriage became the moment I won everything. Because what Jake didn't know was that abandoning me 37 miles from home was the criminal charge I'd been waiting for. I stood in that rest stop parking lot watching his BMW disappear, and instead of crying, I smiled. He'd just given me everything I needed. The rest stop had a small visitor center, closed on weekends. But it had payphones, the old kind that still existed in rural areas. I had no money for a call, but I knew how to make emergency calls. I called 911. "I need help," I told the dispatcher. "My husband just abandoned me at a rest stop. I have no phone, no money, no way to get home. I'm stranded." "What's your location?" the dispatcher asked. I gave the highway number and mile marker. "I'm sending a state trooper." "Stay where you are." "Are you in immediate danger?" "My husband left me here intentionally," I said. "To teach me a lesson," he said. "I think it's domestic abuse." A trooper is on the way, she confirmed. Stay on the line with me. 20 minutes later, a state trooper arrived. Trooper Morrison, according to her name tag, mid-40s, professional demeanor. Ma'am, you're the one who called about abandonment? Yes, I said, and I started crying real tears because the reality of what Jake had done, what he'd been doing for years, hit me all at once. My husband left me here. He said I needed to walk home. It's 37 miles. Walk 37 miles? She repeated, in this heat? That's dangerous. That's potentially criminal. Tell me exactly what happened. I told her everything. The fight, the drive, his deliberate abandonment, his taking my phone. I gave her Jake's name, his car make and model, our address. She wrote it all down, taking photos of me standing there in the heat, documenting my teen condition. Have you experienced other abuse from your husband? She asked. Yes, I said. Financial abuse, emotional abuse, controlled out. He doesn't let me have money. He monitors everything I do. This is just the worst thing he's done physically. Do you have somewhere safe to go? She asked. I have family, I said. My parents live in Pennsylvania. But I don't have my phone to call them. He took it. I'll give you a ride home, she said. But I want to document this properly. This is abandonment, reckless endangerment, potentially domestic violence. I'm going to file a report. Do you want to press charges? Yes, I said without hesitation. I want to press charges. She drove me home, 37 miles, documenting the distance. When we arrived at my house at noon, Jake's car was in the driveway. He'd been home for over an hour, probably expected me to still be walking. The trooper knocked on the door. Jake answered, surprised to see me with a police officer. Lauren, he said, his face pale. You called the police? Seriously? Matthews, Trooper Morrison said. I need to speak with you about abandoning your wife 37 miles from home this morning. I didn't abandon her, Jake said quickly. She wanted to go for a drive. I dropped her at a rest stop. She said she'd find her own way home. It was her choice. That's not what you said. I spoke up. You said I needed to walk home to learn a lesson. You took my phone. You left me stranded intentionally. She's lying, Jake told the trooper. She's dramatic. This is between a husband and wife. Not a police matter. Leaving someone stranded without resources is a criminal matter, the trooper said. I'm filing charges for reckless endangerment and domestic abuse. You'll be receiving a court summons. I suggest you find an attorney. Jake's face went from pale to red. This is ridiculous. I'm not being charged for a marital dispute. Lauren, tell her this is a misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding, I said clearly. You abandoned me as punishment, and I'm pressing charges. After the trooper left, promising to follow up with the district attorney's office, Jake turned on me. What the hell are you doing? He shouted. Calling the cops on me? Your husband? Do you have any idea what you've just done? I could lose my job. My reputation. All because you're being dramatic about a drive? You left me on a highway 37 miles from home, I said. With no phone, no money, in 90-degree heat. That's not a drive. That's abandonment. That's abuse. And it's criminal. I was teaching you a lesson, he said. You needed to learn respect. Learn your place. Learn gratitude. I learned something, I said. I learned you'll never change. I learned you'll always be controlling and abusive. And I learned I'm done with this marriage. Done? He laughed. You can't leave. You have nothing. No money, no job, no way to support yourself. You think you can afford an attorney? You think you can survive without me? You'll be crawling back within a week, begging me to take you back. We'll see, I said. That Monday, 2 days after the abandonment, a process server knocked on Jake's door while he was getting ready for work. He signed for an envelope, opened it, and found divorce papers. Comprehensive, professionally drafted, filed by one of the city's top family law attorneys. The filing listed grounds including financial abuse, emotional abuse, coercive control, and criminal abandonment. It requested full division of marital assets, alimony, and a restraining order. Jake called me immediately, screaming, "What is this? Divorce papers? You can't afford an attorney. How did you pay for this? Did you steal my credit card?" I didn't steal anything, I said calmly. I have my own money. Money you didn't know about. And I'm divorcing you. You'll be hearing from my attorney. Your attorney? He laughed, but it sounded panicked. Who's your attorney? Some legal aid hack? I'll bury you. I'll get the best lawyer in the state. You'll get nothing. My attorney is Rebecca Morrison from Morrison and Associates, I said. She specializes in high-asset divorces and domestic abuse cases. You'll be getting her call shortly too. Discuss settlement. I hung up. Rebecca Morrison was the attorney I'd been consulting with for months, paid from my secret account. She was expensive, $500 an hour, but she was the best. And she'd reviewed all my evidence and assured me we'd win everything. Jake hired an attorney, Thomas Wheeler, expensive but with a reputation for aggressive defense of wealthy husbands. The first settlement discussion happened 1 week after filing. Both attorneys, both parties, in a conference room at Rebecca's firm. Let me be clear, Rebecca began laying out documents. Lauren is requesting a 50-50 division of all marital assets. This includes the house, currently valued at $400,000 with $100,000 remaining on the mortgage. Jake's $401k currently at $220,000. The joint savings account, $12,000 at worth. Jake's BMW, $45,000. Household furnishings, approximately $30,000 in value. Absolutely not, Thomas Wheeler said immediately. The house is in my client's name only. My client purchased it before marriage with his money. It's not marital property. Your client purchased it 2 months after marriage, Rebecca corrected, and it was purchased during marriage with marital funds. Connecticut is an equitable distribution state. The house is absolutely marital property. She pulled out more documents. Additionally, we're documenting financial abuse. For 6 years, Lauren was given an allowance of $500 per month for all personal and household expenses. Meanwhile, Jake spent an average of $3,000 per month on personal expenses. Golf, suits, cars, dinners. He controlled all finances, prevented Lauren from working, and isolated her financially. My client provided a comfortable lifestyle, Wheeler argued. Lauren never wanted for anything. She lived in a nice house, drove a decent car when needed, had food and shelter. She was given $500 a month and questioned on every purchase, Rebecca said. That's financial abuse. We have recordings of Jake berating her for spending $30 at Target. We have 6 years of credit card statements showing the inequality. We have documentation that he prevented her from working, from seeing friends, from having independent finances. She pulled out another folder, and most significantly, we have criminal charges. Jake is currently facing charges for reckless endangerment and domestic abuse for abandoning Lauren 37 miles from home. The state trooper's report, Lauren's statement, and the documented distance all support criminal conviction. If convicted, this strengthens our case for full division of assets plus alimony. Jake's face had gone white. It was one incident, one fight. That's not domestic violence, it's a pattern, Rebecca said, pulling out more documents. We have recordings of verbal abuse spanning 2 years. We have documentation of financial control, isolation, and coercion. The abandonment is simply the most recent and most dangerous incident. The district attorney is pursuing charges. This is happening regardless of the divorce. Thomas Wheeler looked at his client, then at the documents, then back at Rebecca. What are you asking for in settlement? 50% of all marital assets, Rebecca said. Lauren gets half the house value, half the $401k, half the savings, half the furnishings. Additionally, alimony of $3,000 per month for 4 years to allow Lauren to rebuild her career and financial independence that Jake destroyed. And a restraining order keeping Jake away from Lauren. My client will never agree to that, Wheeler said. Then we go to trial, Rebecca said, where a judge will hear about 6 years of financial abuse, emotional abuse, and criminal endangerment. Where we play recordings of Jake calling Lauren worthless, fat, lazy, stupid. Where we show credit card statements of him spending freely while restricting her to poverty-level allowances. Where we present evidence that he deliberately prevented her from working to maintain control. Judges don't look favorably on that kind of abuse, particularly female judges. And Judge Henderson, who'll likely hear this case, is known for severe rulings against abusive spouses. She looked directly at Jake. You'll lose. You'll lose the house, the money, and you'll likely serve jail time for the criminal charges. Or you can settle now, split assets, pay reasonable alimony, and move on. Jake was shaking with rage. She doesn't deserve anything. She didn't work. She didn't contribute. She was lazy and ungrateful, and I supported her for 6 years. Now she wants half of it. What I earned, she couldn't work because you forbade it, Rebecca said. You made her financially dependent, then used that dependence as a weapon. That's textbook domestic abuse. You're lucky we're only asking for 50%. We could argue for 70%, based on your conduct. The meeting ended with no settlement. Jake refused to agree. I'll take my chances with a judge, he said. I'll prove she's lying about everything. I'll prove she was a lazy wife who wants to steal my money. Good luck with that, Rebecca said. Over the next 2 months, discovery proceeded. Rebecca subpoenaed 6 years of credit card statements, bank records, financial documents. She took depositions from Jake's colleagues who'd witnessed him complaining about his useless wife. She deposed Jake himself, getting him to admit on record that he'd given Lauren a $500 monthly allowance, that he'd taken her phone the day he abandoned her, that he'd deliberately driven her 37 miles from home and left her there. Why did you do that? Rebecca asked during the deposition. To teach her a lesson, Jake said, not realizing how bad that sounded. A lesson about what? About respect. About gratitude. About being a better wife. By abandoning her on a highway, she needed to understand the consequences, he said. Every answer made the case stronger. His own words condemned him. The criminal case proceeded simultaneously. The district attorney charged Jake with reckless endangerment and domestic abuse. His attorney tried to get the charges dismissed, arguing it was a marital dispute. The judge denied the motion. Leaving someone stranded without resources in dangerous heat is criminal regardless of marital status, the judge ruled. This case goes to trial. Facing criminal charges and a divorce trial that would air all his abuse publicly, Jake finally agreed to settle. 6 weeks after I filed for divorce, we reached an agreement. I got 50% of the house value, $200,000 to be paid from refinancing or sale. I got half his $401k, $110,000 transferred to my own retirement account. I got half the savings, $6,000. I got my car, the older Honda Civic I'd been driving, which he'd previously owned and controlled. I got $3,500 per month in alimony for 3 years, enough to rebuild my life and career. Most importantly, I got a permanent restraining order. Jake had to stay 500 feet away from me at all times. He couldn't contact me except through attorneys. If he violated the order, he'd face immediate arrest. The criminal charges were reduced to a misdemeanor as part of the settlement, with Jake pleading guilty to reckless endangerment. He got probation, anger management classes, and a permanent criminal record. His real estate license was suspended pending ethics review. His colleagues and clients learned about the abuse through public court records. He lost his job, lost his reputation, lost most of his assets. The house had to be sold to pay me my share. Jake moved into a 2-bedroom apartment, driving a used Toyota now instead of a BMW Dodge. He was ordered to make monthly alimony payments, $3,500, directly from his wages. His new job as a sales associate at a furniture store paid $45,000 a year. After taxes and alimony, he was left with about $2,400 a month to live on. Less than he used to give me as an allowance. The irony wasn't lost on me. But I wasn't done. Because what Jake still didn't know was that I was a licensed attorney. 2 months after the divorce was finalized, I started my own practice specializing in domestic abuse cases and divorce law. I used my remaining trust fund money to set up an office, hire a paralegal, and start taking clients. Women like me who'd been controlled, abused, financially manipulated. I built a reputation quickly, winning case after case using the same strategies Rebecca had used for me. Within a year, my practice was successful enough that I was making $70,000 annually. Within 2 years, $120,000. I bought a small house, cash, with money from my trust fund. I had my own car, my own finances, my own life. I was thriving, while Jake was barely surviving. 6 months ago, 3 years after the divorce, Jake violated the restraining order. He showed up at my office, drunk, angry, wanting to talk. I called the police immediately. He was arrested, spent a night in jail, and his probation was revoked. He served 60 days for violating the restraining order. When he got out, he called me from a blocked number. I recorded the call. "This is all your fault," he said. "You destroyed my life. I lost everything because of you." "No," I said calmly. You lost everything because you abused me. Because you controlled me. Because you abandoned me on a highway. You did this to yourself. I provided for you, he shouted. I gave you everything. You gave me prison, I corrected. You gave me 6 years of financial and emotional abuse. You gave me trauma I'm still working through in therapy. But you also gave me motivation. Motivation to escape, to succeed, to help other women escape men like you. You were nothing without me, he said. I had a law degree you didn't know about, I said. I had $400,000 from my grandmother you didn't know about. I had strength and intelligence and capability you couldn't see because you were too busy trying to control me. I was never nothing. You just convinced me I was. And the moment you left me on that highway, I remembered who I really was. So thank you. Thank you for being so abusive, so criminal, so obvious. You made my case easy. I hung up. He called back 17 times. I blocked the number and reported the violation to his probation officer. He got another warning. I haven't heard from him since. I'm 34 now. I run a successful law practice with 2 other attorneys working under me. We specialize in domestic abuse divorce cases. We've helped over 100 women escape situations like mine. We've won millions in settlements, protected dozens of women from violent partners, and built a reputation for being fierce advocates. My income last year was $180,000, more than Jake ever made. My house is paid off. My car is paid off. I have no debt, significant savings, and a retirement account that's growing steadily. I'm in therapy, working through the trauma Jake inflicted, getting stronger every day. I have friends, a social life, hobbies I enjoy. I travel, I laugh, I live freely without anyone controlling me. Jake, last I heard through mutual acquaintances, is still working retail. Still paying alimony for another year. Still living in a small apartment. Still angry at the world for what I did to him. He hasn't dated seriously because women Google him and find his criminal record for domestic abuse. He hasn't rebuilt his real estate career because his license was permanently revoked after the ethics investigation found multiple clients who'd witnessed inappropriate behavior. He destroyed his own life by being abusive and controlling. I just documented it and used it against him in court. That's not revenge. That's justice. That's using the legal system exactly as it's designed to be used. That's protecting myself and then helping others protect themselves. The 37 miles he left me stranded became the foundation of my freedom. Every step of that distance, metaphorically, took me further from his control. He thought he was teaching me a lesson. He was. He taught me that I was strong enough to escape, that I was smart enough to plan, that I was capable enough to build a life he couldn't touch. Some people say I was vindictive, that I took too much in the divorce, that I destroyed him unnecessarily. But those people don't understand abuse. They don't understand what it's like to live in fear, in control, in financial prison for 6 years. They don't understand what it's like to be abandoned on a highway, and realize your partner values control over your safety. I didn't destroy Jake. He destroyed himself. I just made sure the legal system held him accountable. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been controlled by a partner who made you feel worthless, if you've ever had to rebuild your life after escaping abuse, leave a comment. Subscribe if you believe that abusers should face consequences, that victims should win, that escape is possible with planning and courage. Share this with someone who needs to hear that being left 37 miles away doesn't mean you're abandoned. It means you're 37 miles closer to freedom. Remember, you're stronger than your abuser thinks. You're smarter than they realize. You're capable of escaping and thriving. Document everything. Build your plan in secret. And when the moment comes, strike with everything you have. That's not revenge. That's survival. And survival, when done right, looks a lot like winning.